All right. Thing one, let's pick a title because I wrote down some good things you said, and I'll just read them back to you, and you get to tell me your favorite.
Is the boy from Sheboygan in there?
No, it is not, because he has not written that book yet.
No, but he did say it several times.
You know, you could say not a boy from Sheboygan.
I'm saving it for your comeback interview where you actually have a boy from Sheboygan.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
All right. So the things I did write down: back in a former life, tip tap typing away, the worst 36 hours of my life, which one am I? Don't bail on your friends. Now I have to deal with you. We're family. We're not going away. Who died exactly? Or there's more here for you to plumb.
A lot of those sound great. So I'm, tip tap typing away was probably the one that
tickled you the most.
Tickled me the most.
It's also catchy. I mean, that's why I grabbed it the minute you said it. All right, I can work with that one.
All right, sounds great.
As you're still recording?
Go ahead.
Welcome to Season 7, Episode 11, Tip Tap Typing Away. This is Written on the Edge. I'm Van Sebastian here with my co-host, S.A. Baz Collins.
Hello.
We're really glad you're here with us. Our guest today is Eric Peterson. Eric is a novelist and playwright. His plays include an adaptation of Nathaniel Hawthorne's The House of the Seven Gables, Seven Strangers in a Circle, nominee Best Play by Washington Theater Festival, and Smoke and Mirrors. He has been a regular contributor to Letters from Camp Rehoboth and NBC Out, and co-hosts The Rewind Project, a podcast about old movies in modern times. He was named a finalist in the 2022 Saints and Sinners short fiction contest for his story, Little Boy Blue. Loyalty, Love, and Vermouth is his first novel. Eric, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And who was the photobomb?
Yeah. Was that Margot?
No, that is not Margot. I am taking a little vacation, so I'm calling you from New York City. I don't live in New York, but we're on a theater trip, and some friends said, "Hey, can you do this?" And I was like, "I need to be on a podcast for an hour, but sure, I can do that from New York."
Nice. Very nice. Well, you live the writer's life. Where did the fire start?
I was a theater major back in a former life. So when I was a young man, I dreamed of a life in the theater. I quickly discovered upon graduation that a life that entails always looking for the next job was not a path to happiness for me. So I gave it up, but I actually started writing for the theater. I mean, as you noted, I've written a number of plays in my lifetime, and that's a medium that I felt really, really comfortable in. And so I was doing that for a long, long time. I mean, I am a debut novelist at the age of 50, but I've been writing for a good long time. And, I will say that the thing I really miss about playwriting is the idea that you're sitting alone in your house and you're typing something on your keyboard, and then months later, someone is saying your lines in front of an audience and getting applause, or even better, a big laugh. I mean, there is just, writers absolutely cannot ask for more than that.
Yeah, that's where a good review always kind of sort of fills that gap.
Yeah.
But
it's often delayed, and then you may not get to see it.
Instant gratification takes too long, as Carrie Fisher said. So yes, it's one of those things that it's right there in the moment. It's live. There's nothing like it. And I'm not saying I'll never write a play ever again. Mm-hmm. But fiction writing is a completely different animal. And so, yeah, I do feel new at the same time that I've been doing this for a while. But yeah, the playwright is the king of the theater. And so I thought, sure, as long as I'm learning how to act, I'm learning how to direct, I'll maybe try my hand at this too. And nothing was more rewarding than that. Absolutely nothing. You can get a laugh as an actor, you can hear the laugh as a director, knowing that you wrote that line and you really made this entire, hundreds of people convulse in laughter at the same time. No high is as big as that.
That's awesome. So your first novel, Loyalty, Love, and Vermouth.
Yeah. So this book came about because I couldn't figure out how to write a play about it. It didn't really work in terms of, I didn't see it theatrically. And I have friends who are involved in writing. I have a very dear friend who's an editor who edits other people's novels, and said, Eric, you could write a novel. And I don't know, I'm a big reader. I read a lot of novels, but I just thought, how does anyone write all of that? It just seemed like such an insurmountable task, but I decided to just try it. So I went to a writing workshop for 10 days where we spent mornings in class and afternoon in our little cabins, tip-tap typing away. And we could schedule meetings with different faculty to kind of look at our pages and give us some feedback. And at the end of those 10 days, I had 30 pages written, and I was kind of off to a good start. At that point in my life, pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of work travel. So it was an easy thing to tell myself, when you're in a strange hotel, just bring your laptop with you and you'll do some writing that night. And I actually finished a first draft in about 6 months. Nice. But this is a book about kind of very much inspired by a true story, but I have to always tell people this is very fictionalized. It's very embellished. I really did take liberties with a lot of things, but something happened to me in 2014. Believe that's right. My dog was kidnapped from my house. I had a dog napping. And she was gone for 36 hours. And it was the worst 36 hours of my entire life. I've had a very blessed life, but it was the pits. It was awful. And I learned a lot about the people in my life during those 36 hours. I got calls from people I had not heard, including my ex, who had adopted the dog with me and I had not spoken to in a couple of years. Things just happened. And then the main thing that happened is that my family of choice, if you will, my found family, really gathered around me and moved heaven and earth to get this dog back. And it worked. And we got her back. So I'm not going to tell you what happens in the book, but in real life, I got the dog back. The dog did not die. The dog is still with us. And the dog is really just kind of a MacGuffin. I mean, it really is about the people in this man's life, but it all kind of centers around your dog being gone for 36 hours and not knowing where she is. And she was taken during a robbery, and it's scary. And it's just, it's a little crisis. And so I thought it would be the basis of a good story. And again, I couldn't figure out how to theatrically do it. Besides, never write a play with a dog in it. Just
I was going to say plays
that.
and animals.
No.
Speaking as an indie film director and sometimes commercial actor, they steal focus. That's just what they do.
Yeah, unless you're A.R. Gurney and you cast Sarah Jessica Parker to play said dog, in which case it's brilliant.
Right. I think Snoopy's about the only one that's worked.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen Sylvia? That's such a great. Yeah. Sarah Jessica Parker played the dog. She played the dog.
Yep. All right. Well, let's not spoil the novel, but let's talk about the cast of characters who are this man's found family.
Sure. So he's got basically, I had to take all of my friends and condense them into two people. So there's in the book, there's Lee, who is the kind of emotional, nurturing character, takes care of people's feelings and really does look after them in a beautiful way. And then there's Tucker, who is the get up and go, kind of biased towards action, let's keep her moving kind of person who just kind of gets things done. And I have about 8 friends of mine that I condensed into these two characters, and a couple of my friends who show up in both of them. And so that's why I was, saying it's like, it's very fictionalized. Like, people wanted to know as soon as the book came out, which one am I? And I'm like, you're all of them and none of them. And it really is, it's not, but they would see a certain line and go, oh, that's me. And I was like, yes, that particular moment is absolutely you, but you're not the only person in this. Yeah. And then there are 2 characters who I lifted right from my life. These 2 women that I call my adoptive lesbian moms, that when I came out of the closet at the age of 25, they were kind of there waiting for me. And it made my coming out story very easy and very joyful, actually. It was not a scary thing at all. They whisked me away to, you mentioned Rehoboth in my intro, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, which is this little kind of resort community that most of the gay community within the Mid-Atlantic has kind of discovered, and they frequent quite a bit. And the 2 days after I told them, I think I'm gay, they said, you're coming with us to Rehoboth, you're meeting all of our friends. I met so many couples who'd been together for decades. I just saw what my life could be, and it looked pretty good. So they are in the book, and they were instrumental as well in helping me get the dog back. And it was nice to pay homage to them with these two characters who end up being, I hear from a lot of people that the lesbian moms are their favorite characters in the whole book. And it's funny because the lesbian moms themselves they read it and they're like, are we this mean? I'm like, you're not mean. You're kind of tell it like it is. You're just kind of, and again, amplified for comic effect, but people do love them, and I love them too.
I can't remember where the reference is, but I always remember there was a movie I saw where all hell breaks loose and like some gay boy screams, "Get the lesbians!" Just sort
of. Exactly. Lesbians know their shit, man. They can make things happen.
Right. Susie Orman scares the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, as well she should.
Right. All right. Again,
Sven, you're ready this way. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I noticed you didn't actually give some of the fun aspects of character here. So which one is the Georgia-born man who might be married to a sex addict, and which is the hostess of DC's hottest drag bingo? Okay,
so Tucker is the Georgia-born man who. So again, Tucker and Lee both have significant others who are also in this. So Tucker's significant other is Jack, and Lee has a partner whose name is Claude. And so yes, Lee, the emotional, nurturing one, also moonlights as a drag queen. There is an extended scene where Charlie, the protagonist, tags along with Lee to a bar where Lee is hosting drag bingo in his alternate persona, Senorita Chiquita Banana. We go through that whole sequence. And while at the bar, he meets a former one-night stand that ended really, really badly, and has a drunken night of just feeling not very good about himself and wallowing in self-pity that leads to bad decisions, because bad decisions make for good literature, right? Tucker is married to this guy named Jack, who, again, amplified for dramatic effect. It's something that you do see in quite a few gay relationships, is this different couples have their rules. And Jack is somebody who believes in a lot of openness in the relationship, and he continually bails when people need him because somebody on his phone hookup app wants to meet. And I want to make very clear, I cast no aspersions to people who have different rules in their various relationships. And you don't bail on your friends when your friends really need you because there's someone who might want to hook up, And so I take a bit of a dim view of Jack. I think that kind of comes through. And I feel as a writer, a lot of sympathy towards poor Tucker, but Tucker's in love with a guy, and this is his life. And one of the things that he says to Charlie throughout the book, Charlie is, if I had to kind of say what is the arc, the emotional arc of this story, is that Charlie adopted this dog with a man who then cheated on him, lied to him, broke his heart. The breakup was bitter. It was humiliating. And what he has left of it is this dog. Right. And he has decided, it says right there in chapter 1, like, I made a deal with the dog. You know what? It's you and me, and we're going to be fine because relationships suck. And it doesn't hurt, in a way, that worldview that he's surrounded by friends who don't have perfect relationships. And so part of it is, part of Charlie's learning throughout this book is Tucker at some point sits him down and says, it's my relationship. It's my choice. I've decided that I'm happier with him than I would be without him, and I'll just have to deal with it. But it really does not help you at all to sit there on your high horse and say, you're doing the wrong thing when you go to bed alone every night. There you go. And I believe, as someone who is, by the way, single and completely okay with it, some people want to go to bed alone every night. Sometimes life is a little bit simpler, but I don't think Charlie does. He's just got a block. And part of this whole story is, dogs are supposed to be super loyal. And yes, you will probably outlive them, but they will never willingly break your heart. And here's this 4-year-old dog who is gone because sometimes the world intervenes and your heart gets broken anyway. And it's a tough life lesson for him. And that's what he's going through. through the course of the story.
So I'm getting gay, meet the Fockers kind of thing, like with Jinxie and Robert De Niro's character.
A little bit. A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And Lee doesn't have
a pet, shit happens.
Yes. I mean, it just any kind of crisis, right? I mean, starts to reveal who people are and starts to make your life pretty clear when you can look back on it. Hindsight is a good teacher. And so me looking back upon this mini crisis that only lasted for 36 hours, but had an impact. I mean, I still sometimes look at my little dog and I'm like, I can't believe we got you back. I just can't believe it. It still seems like a miracle. And I will never forget those 36 hours were awful. And, the good thing about it is I got a book out of it. So, hey,
nice.
Not sure I would relive them anyway, even, with that, but, life happens and hey, I wrote a book.
Right.
I know exactly what you went through because my mom went through the same thing. She had a dog that actually fell out of the back of her truck at a lighted intersection. She didn't know it and she took off and then the dog was gone. So I totally get this story. I had to live it myself, Amazing. I'm glad you got him back.
Yes. Well, and some people will hear the premise of the book and they'll be like, that's it. It's about a lost dog. And it is and it's not. It is and it's not. But I tell you what, there are enough people out there who have animals in their lives. They know how tragic this is. It just, as soon as they hear the premise, they're like, oh my God, wow, that sounds awful. And I'm like, I'm not going to spoil what happens in the book, but I just want you to know that I got my dog back and she is safe and sound and doing just fine.
Good. Perfect. Is there anything else you want folks to know about the novel before we move on?
Just that it's funny. It's about this thing that does kind of get you in the feels, but I can't help but write funny stuff. I once, as a playwright, believed that I was writing a very, very serious drama. And the very first review that I got back was a very positive review. But the first thing it said was Seven Strangers in a Circle, a new comedy by Eric C. Peterson. I'm like, what? And I called the director and I'm like, well, and he said, of course it's a comedy. It's hysterical. People laugh at, every single minute. There's a big laugh. And it was one of those funny because it's true kind of a things. And I have embraced my identity as somebody who writes funny stuff a long time ago. It's fine. I don't think it prevents you from saying serious things that are true and that people can benefit from hearing. Mm-hmm. And everything is easier to take with a little bit of laughter. So it is people have described it as a fairly light, easy read. Some people have said they read it in a weekend. It was not something that they had to labor over, and it was not something they had to force themselves to pick up again. It's not a deep, dark tragedy. It's got some funny stuff in there.
Nice. So let's move on to the craft.
Well, before you do,
okay.
Because you're a playwright, and typically we have a lot of authors we've asked this question of, and they don't know, they're not into it. But being a playwright, Dreamcast for your four mains.
Oh yeah, I have thought of this. Absolutely.
I knew it.
Well, and it's part of it's the way that I think, but it's something I used to do as a playwright all the time. But it really helps you create different voices, when you're doing this. So I don't know if you're familiar with The Boys in the Band. But Netflix just did a whole remake of that. And I borrowed most of the people in my cast from that group. And so I absolutely saw Jim Parsons kind of playing the version of me because he's a little hapless and he's a little I can see him not taking action when action needs to be taken. He's just too busy sitting there feeling sorry for himself and not doing the thing that needs to be done. Lee was absolutely the guy who played Emery, Robin DeJesus, who was also recently in Tick, Tick, Boom. He's fun. He's spunky. He tells it like it is. The character is also Latino. And so that just kind of fit right in there. Tucker was a hard one. I don't know that there is a kind of a person from my life that I inserted in there, but I guess if I was thinking about cast, I don't know. I mean, from The Boys in the Band, if I were to pull from that cast, I would say Andrew Rannells would be a good person for that role. And then Jack, who is just, not only is he kind of a player, there's a lot of jokes in the book about the fact that he's just impossibly handsome to the point of being rude. I mean, he just walks into a room and makes everyone feel bad about themselves. He's so good looking.
Right, Henry Cavill.
Matt Bomer was where I was going.
Yeah,
but
right.
sure.
No, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, one of those people that's just
Henry Cavill.
Really? Yeah. Henry Cavill could work. Because he's just like, he would walk in the room and you think, really? Now I have to deal with you
Yeah,
being
exactly.
that handsome in addition to everything else. Like, oh, it's pissed me off now. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it.
Oh, and Allison
Let's
Janney
get it
is
to
one of the
Netflix
moms.
or Amazon.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Hey, Netflix can call me. Ryan
Right?
Murphy, I am available. Call me up. I'm seeing like a 3-part limited series. I think
There
it could
you
be
go.
really great.
There you
Yeah.
There you go.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Break it up.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to craft. Writing for plays, you just have to capture the voice in lines and maybe give an action when it's super important to the plot. And that's it. I mean,
Yep.
the rest you leave to imagination and set. What was it like actually writing a book where you have to provide all of that?
It was hard. Yeah. I mean, I would reframe what you said a little bit there,
Okay.
Vance, in that one of the things that you're doing as a playwright, people do. I shouldn't say nobody, but when you're writing a play, you're not hoping that everyone buys your script and reads it. You're hoping that some director and some theater company will say, we're going to mount this, we're going to put it on stage. And what my actors always appreciated about me, and I did this on purpose because I was an actor, is I gave actors room to interpret the text. They could make choices. They could decide, is this person sincere when they say this line, or are they not? Do they have a plan? Are they smart? Are they maybe a little bit less smart? Like, give them a little bit of room to play. And as I was beginning to write my novel, I wanted to do the same for the reader. I wanted to engage them by saying, right, show, don't tell, right? I mean, just show them what's going on and let them make up their own mind. And I learned through my various writers groups and all of my faculty stuff, it's like, that is incredibly frustrating for a reader to have to decide all that stuff. I mean, they can decide whether they like somebody or not, but they need to be clear about what's happening. And most of them are kind of expecting you to at least give away some motivation. Now, I wrote this in the first person because that to me was more like a monologue, so in a way I could read it back to myself. It sounded a little bit like a piece of theater. I am now writing my next book in third person limited, which is a little bit of a stretch for me because it is kind of saying, here's what's, you can still kind of read a little bit of somebody's mind here eventually. But yeah, writing in a way that fills in some of those blanks was hard for me. And yet I see a lot of writers, in my opinion, go too far in the other direction. They give away way too much. They don't engage the reader enough to have them like wonder about certain things. And so I'm just coming at it from the complete opposite direction. But that is hard. I mean, it was something that was a real challenge for me when I started to write fiction, is that I left way too much open to interpretation because, again, actors love that. And an audience, they actually see a lot of choices having been made, but you have to leave half the choices up to your actors or else it's just boring. And it's not a very engaging play if the actors don't really have anything to do. If it's so spelled out on the page, you have to spell out a lot more in fiction than you do when you're writing plays. And so if anyone was thinking about doing it the opposite way, that would be the advice I would give them. It's like, are you giving your actors any leeway to have fun with this? And if not, actors are not going to want to do it. And I tell you what, you always say, get the producers, get the directors. If you want a play that is really successful, make sure that an actor has a wonderful time doing it. That's the key. They will tell everyone, I was in this new play and it was so much fun to do. And the audiences were blah, 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 blah. And it'll tick off.
Nice. So family of choice. And you hit on this a little bit with your own coming out experience. Mm-hmm. But let's jump into why it's so freaking important to just any LGBTQIA person at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I don't want to trade in too many stereotypes, but this is something that does happen to enough LGBT people that it becomes important, as a lot of them don't have great relationships with their families of origin, shall we say. I do. My parents are great. My sister is wonderful. I mean, I have a family that I can lean on. But it really is part of the culture that we find kind of tribes within our own community, and we're there to support each other. And we really do serve those roles of family. It's not just a circle of friends. It becomes people who you depend on as your family. And I feel like we're honest with each other in a way that I see sometimes my straight friends are not as honest with their good friends because they just can't be. And I feel like the bonds that I have with my chosen family we're family. We're not going away. I can tell you that you're making a really bad decision right now, and you're not going to show me the door and never speak to me again. We have the ability to do that. And people have asked me, like, Eric, is this really a gay book, or is it just a book that happens to be about a gay person? And yeah, I guess anybody could have their dog kidnapped, and they could have a circle of friends that rallies around them and works to get the dog back. And they could learn perhaps to be a little bit more open to heartbreak, like it's not the end of the world. And that could be a story about anybody. But I really do feel like this book is very much about something that happens in my community in a different way than happens elsewhere. We really do depend on those families of choice in a way that I think that it's a little bit more heightened than it is sometimes amongst straight people, just because that's necessary. And, again, gay people have kids, gay people have been raising children for a long, long time, but it happens a little bit less, and so those of us who don't have children, again, all of that time that you would spend, doing your child rearing, we have, my brothers, if you will, kind of taking that role for me. And then I'm very lucky. I don't know a whole lot of other gay people who have elders in their community that mean as much to me as my adopted lesbian moms do, but it does happen. I think one of the biggest flaws, if you will, not in people, not a character flaw, but something about our community that really could be fixed, if you will, is that more intergenerational contact is really necessary. I see a lot of generations of gay people essentially raising themselves. And then elders are like, what do you mean you don't know this line from Auntie Mame? Are you a complete idiot? And it's like, well, but do you know all the lines from Mean Girls? You don't, right? Because we all have our own little individualized cultures, and there's not enough of that kind of contact. But I was lucky. I had a whole group of people, the generation above me, who took me under their wing and said, here's what it's like. And so, of course, I know all the old movie quotes that none of my friends do, and they all look at me like I have two heads sometimes, but that's just the way it is.
Well, and I also think that, because my parents were the welcoming ones. So as soon as my gay friends knew that my parents were cool, then they became, by de facto, their parents as well. Mm-hmm. And so your found family, and especially if you come from that kind of an environment, your found family often attaches to your family because that completes the picture for them. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes. And everyone, every single one of my friends looks at my adoptive lesbian mom has walked one of my friends down the aisle at their wedding because they didn't have anybody to do that. And so they said, can I ask Faye? I'm like, sure, of course you can ask Faye, and she did it, and she was proud to do it. It was one of those things that does happen. Yeah. And of course your mom probably did have a moment of, I'm never going to have grandchildren. And then she discovered she had 6 gay kids that she didn't count on. But there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. All right. Anything else you want folks to know?
I'm just really excited to be on this journey, with this story. It's just, I tell you, it's a cliche, but there is nothing like getting your first box of books in the mail and just seeing your name on a cover. And it just, that was something that I thought, I've seen that in so many movies, but it was such a huge thrill. I'm really grateful to you guys for taking some time to talk to me about it this morning and just help me get the word out, because it's just been it's a really fun ride so far. This thing was published in November, so it's still new, and I'm hopefully going to follow it up. I'm working on a second novel right now, and I've got a writers group, which is super important to have someone to kind of bounce a page off of occasionally, and just really enjoying all the community that this is opening me up to, and I'm just really enjoying the ride.
Well, if I may drop another cliche, welcome to the new chapter of your life.
Well, there you go.
All right, folks, we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. If you enjoy learning about these artists, please like and subscribe so you get alerts for new episodes. And you teased your upcoming work twice now.
I did.
Share it. Here's your chance to announce it.
Sure. So as you noted before, I wrote a short story that was named a finalist in the recent Saints and Sinners Literary Festival. And it got enough people that I showed it to beforehand said, there's more here for you to plumb. So this is a book about a young man who actually escapes from not Sheboygan, although maybe I should have him escape from Sheboygan. That would be maybe that's what I'm meant to do. Right now, he's coming from the South. He has escaped from Savannah, Georgia, and he now lives in the big city. And his beloved Aunt Lucille, who is family, but in a way kind of found family, when his parents removed him from the house for, after discovering magazines full of naked men in his bedroom.
As one's wont to do.
Yes, as one is wont to do at the age of 15. Yes, we are. Right. I mean, I had the JCPenney catalog. That's all I had available to me. But his Aunt Lucille takes him in, and that's been his one kind of avatar for unconditional love his entire life. And I hate to tell you, like, I didn't kill the dog, but I'm killing Aunt Lucille. And when she dies, he goes home to give her a proper send-off because no one else is really doing it, but also kind of has to reevaluate what does his life mean that this one person has, is gone, and he never really opened up to let another person take her place. And so what is that all about? And so, yes, it sounds very, looking at Vance's face, he looks like he's going to make me cry. But it's also going to be funny because I'm a funny guy. So it's going to be a look at, heartbreak and grief and some pretty heavy topics, but with a fairly light touch, because that's kind of my brand.
Well, nice. Comedy's born from pain.
Nice. Absolutely. The good comedy is, sure.
Anything else you want to announce?
Just that the Saints and Sinners Festival is happening a week after I believe this is going to air, on March 25th down in New Orleans. I will be there. I'm on a couple of panels, and we will also be sharing. We've got a little book party for the anthology that has been put together, and my story is in there, and I'm very proud of it. So you can order it from, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, all your usual spots. And I'll be talking about that story quite a bit in the next coming weeks. And also my book will be on sale, and hopefully folks will ask me a few questions about that too. Nice.
If folks can't get there in person, can they attend virtually?
I don't believe they're doing it virtually this year. They might have some ways to that they're having folks sign in, but no, they did a wonderful virtual literary festival in 2021.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, I believe that this time they are really looking forward to having folks show up in person again. But if you can't come in 2022, if you are a LGBT writer, absolutely owe it to yourself to go to Saints and Sinners and spend 3 days with your people in New Orleans. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. So I love New Orleans. So I'm really looking forward to going back, not only to the city, but also to meet all these folks that I've seen there before.
Nice. Where should people go to follow you and your updates?
I have a website. It is ericpeterson-author.com. I keep up a blog, not as often as I should, but you can subscribe to the blog. So anything that I do have to say, it'll hit your email box. And you'll be able to see that there. I'll be putting up an excerpt from the short story after the festival is over, and then putting a link where people can go to buy the anthology if they want to see that. So if you want to get a little bit of a sneak peek, you can do that. And everywhere that Loyalty, Love, and Vermouth is on sale that I have found, you can link to it from that site.
Perfect. Any final words of wisdom?
Keep writing, folks. It really does mean a lot to people who need to hear that story that only you've got. Perfect.
All right, folks. Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you enjoy learning about new artists, please like and subscribe so you get alerts for new episodes. Now we'd like to extend a huge thank you to Eric Peterson for taking time out of his New York trip to be with us today.
Hey,
Eric, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing this every week, and for giving folks like me a platform to come talk about their stuff.
It's our pleasure. It's our love. It's what we do. All right, folks, pick up Loyalty, Love, and Vermouth and enjoy your hilarious read about a stolen dog. I promise you, the found family makes it worth the time. And then go sign up for Eric's blog. Thank you all. Take care. We love you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. bum's rush in melody, dear.